The giant alien ship floated in space like a metal city. It was huge, 3 kilometers long and covered with weapons that could destroy planets. The ship was called the Eternal Dominion, and it belonged to the Zephyrian hegemony. These aliens thought they were the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his ship. He was the leader of the alien fleet. His skin was gray and scaly. His eyes were yellow like a snake's. He had 4 arms and sharp teeth. Like all Zephyrians, he believed other species were meant to serve them. Through the big windows of his bridge, Kethver looked at something that made him laugh. A small human ship was coming toward his fleet. The human ship was tiny compared to his mighty warship. It was only 200 meters long. To Kethver, it looked like a metal box floating in space. "Look at that pathetic thing," Kethver said to his officers. His voice was deep and rough. "The humans call that a warship? My personal shuttle is bigger than that piece of junk." The other aliens on the bridge started laughing, too. Lieutenant Yextal made clicking sounds with his mouthparts. "Sir, that human ship is so small, our cleaning robots could probably destroy it," he said. The laughter grew louder. These aliens had been watching Earth for many years. They knew humans were a young species. Humans had just learned to travel between stars while the Zephyrians had been doing it for thousands of years. The aliens had weapons that could crack moons in half. They had shields that could stop the biggest explosions. What could humans possibly do to stop them? The human ship was called the UHSV Defiance. It looked old and worn. Its metal hull was scratched and dented. There were no fancy decorations or bright lights. It was just a simple gray ship that looked like it might fall apart at any moment. "They have been sending us messages for weeks," said Communications Officer Zularon. "The same boring talk about peace and surrender. They want us to leave their planet alone. They say Earth will defend itself." Kethver laughed even harder. "Defend itself with what?" "We counted their entire fleet. They have maybe 30 ships? Like this one. We have over 500 ships in our attack force. Each of our ships is 10 times more powerful than anything they have." The alien admiral walked to his command chair. It was made from the bones of creatures from conquered worlds. He sat down and looked at the tactical display. It showed Earth and all its defenses. There were some missile platforms around the planet. There were laser guns on space stations. There were those 30 small human ships. None of it looked dangerous. "How long will it take to destroy their defenses?" Kethver asked his weapons officer. "Less than 6 hours, sir," came the quick reply. "Their weapons cannot even scratch our shields. Their missiles move too slowly. Their lasers are too weak. We could take their planet in 1 day." This made Kethver very happy. Earth was a beautiful world with lots of water and green plants. It had good air to breathe and perfect weather. Most importantly, it had 3 billion humans who could work in the alien mines and factories. The Zephyrians always needed workers. For their empire. "What about their ground forces?" asked another officer. "Primitive," Kethver replied. "They still use metal bullets and chemical explosives. We have energy weapons and force fields. Their tanks cannot hurt our war machines. Their aircraft are slow and clumsy. Taking their planet will be like taking candy from a baby." The human ship, the Defiance, was just sitting there in space. It was not moving closer or farther away. It was just waiting. This puzzled some of the alien officers. "Why do they not attack or run away?" asked Yextal. "Because they are stupid," Kethver answered. "They think they can negotiate with us. They think we care about their words. They do not understand that we take what we want. We are the strongest species in the galaxy, might makes right." But even as he said this, something bothered the alien admiral. His sensors were picking up strange energy readings from the human ship. The power levels kept changing in weird ways. Sometimes the readings went up, sometimes down. It did not match what they knew about human technology. "Sir," said the sensor officer, "that human ship is showing unusual energy patterns. The readings do not make sense." Kethver looked at the data. It was strange, but he was not worried. "Probably," Just primitive engineering, he said. These mammals cannot even build a proper reactor. Their technology is unstable and crude. The alien fleet had been studying humans for decades. They knew everything about human science and technology. Humans had only recently learned to split atoms. They were just beginning to understand the secrets of faster-than-light travel. They knew nothing about the advanced sciences that the Zephyrians had mastered long ago. "Should we be concerned about those energy readings?" asked the weapons officer. "No," Kethver said firmly. "What could these primitive creatures possibly do to us? They discovered fire only a few thousand years ago. We were building starships when their ancestors were still living in caves." The tactical display showed the positions of all ships. The Zephyrian fleet was spread out in perfect formation. Each ship knew exactly where to be and what to do. They had done this many times before. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. Earth would be no different. The alien admiral thought about his orders from the Hegemony Council. Take the planet with minimum damage to the infrastructure. Keep as many humans alive as possible for the workforce. Destroy any resistance quickly. Completely. Make an example of Earth so other young species would not dare to fight back. "Have they responded to our latest demands for surrender?" Kethver asked. "No, sir. They keep broadcasting the same messages about peace and diplomacy. They want to negotiate." This made the alien admiral angry. "There's nothing to negotiate. We are taking their world. They can surrender and live as our servants, or they can fight and die. Those are their only choices." The human ship continued to float in space, its energy readings still acting strangely. But none of the aliens were worried. They had superior numbers, superior weapons, and superior technology. What could possibly go wrong? Kethver looked out at the stars and thought about his long career. He had conquered 12 worlds for the hegemony. He had destroyed fleets much larger than Earth's pitiful navy. He had turned proud species into humble servants. Adding humanity to that list would be easy. "Prepare all weapons," he ordered. "If they do not surrender in the next hour, we will show them what happens to species that defy the Zephyrian hegemony." The bridge crew moved to carry out his orders. Weapon systems powered up. Shields reached full strength. The mighty fleet prepared to crush the small human force that dared to stand in their way. None of them knew that they were about to learn a very important lesson about underestimating their enemies. Sometimes the most dangerous things come in small packages. The human ship waited quietly in space, and deep inside it, something terrible was getting ready to wake up. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the human ship called Defiance. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and serious brown eyes. Her face showed no fear, even though she knew this mission would probably kill her and everyone on. Her ship, Elena, had been fighting in space for 20 years. She had seen many battles, she had lost many friends. But this was different. This was not just about winning or losing a fight. This was about saving the entire human race. Around her, the crew worked quietly at their stations. These were all volunteers. Every person on the ship had chosen to be here. They all knew they might never see Earth again. They all knew their families might never know what happened to them. "Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Hayes from his position at the communications station, "the aliens are sending us another message. Same as before. They want us to surrender or they will destroy us." Hayes was a young man with blonde hair and blue eyes. He had a wife and 2 small children back on Earth. Elena wondered if she would ever see them again after today. "What exactly do they say?" Elena asked. "They say we have 1 hour to surrender or they will attack. They say resistance is useless. They say humans will make good workers for their empire." Elena felt anger burn in her chest. The aliens talked about humans like they were animals, like they were things to be bought and sold. The Zephyrians had destroyed 12 other worlds. They had turned billions of people into slaves. Earth would not be number 13. Deep inside the ship, in a room surrounded by thick metal walls, Dr. Sarah Chun worked on humanity's biggest secret. She was a small woman with black hair and smart eyes behind thick glasses. For the past 15 years, she had been working on something that most scientists said was impossible. The room was filled with machines that hummed and glowed. Wires ran everywhere. Computer screens showed numbers and graphs that would make no sense to most people. In the center of it all was a device that looked like a metal sphere covered in glowing crystals. This was the Genesis drive. It was humanity's most dangerous weapon. It was also their only hope. Drive systems are stable, Dr. Chun said into her microphone. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking slightly. All safety systems are turned off. Everything is ready. Elena heard the doctor's report through her earpiece. The safety systems were turned off. That was the scary part. Those safety systems existed because the Genesis drive was not just powerful, it was dangerous in ways that most people could not understand. The Genesis drive did not work like normal weapons. It did not shoot bullets or energy beams. It did not explode like bombs. Instead, it changed the rules of reality itself. It reached into the basic forces that hold the universe together and twisted them into new shapes. Elena looked at the main screen on her bridge. The giant alien ship filled most of the view. It was so big that her entire ship could fit inside one of its weapon ports. Intelligence reports said it carried over 50,000 alien soldiers and crew members. She tried not to think about those 50,000 lives. She tried not to think about whether they had families or friends or dreams. But then she remembered the intercepted alien messages. The ones where they talked about humans like farm animals. The ones where they planned which humans would work in which slave camps. "Captain," Hayes called out again. "We are getting a direct message from the alien commander. Do you want to hear it?" "Put it on the speakers," Elena said. The bridge filled with a strange electronic voice. It was the computer trying to translate alien words into English. "Human ship, you have tested our patience long enough. Move away now or we will destroy you. You cannot win against us. We have weapons you cannot imagine." Elena walked to the communications panel. She put her hand on the button that would send her voice to the alien ship. This was the moment. After this, there would be no going back. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Human Starship Defiance," she said in a clear, strong voice. "We have heard your demands. We reject them completely." The alien voice came back immediately. It sounded angry and amused at the same time. "Foolish human female. Your tiny ship is like an insect compared to our mighty fleet. Our smallest weapon could turn your ship into space dust. What could you possibly do to threaten us?" Elena smiled. "For the first time in days, you are about to find out." On the alien ship, Admiral Kethver was getting worried. His sensors were showing that the human ship was producing more and more energy. The readings were climbing higher than anything in their files about human technology. "Sir," his sensor officer reported with alarm in his voice, "their power output just increased by 50 times normal levels. Now it's 100 times normal. The readings are impossible." Kethver studied the numbers on his screens. Something was very wrong. The human ship was tiny, but it was producing as much energy as a small star. How was that possible? "Maybe they are overloading their reactor," suggested the weapons officer. "Maybe they plan to destroy themselves and take some of our ships with them." "Scan for radiation leaks," Kethver ordered. "If their reactor is going critical, we should see signs of it." But the scans showed no radiation leaks, no system failures, no signs that the human reactor was breaking down. The energy was coming from somewhere else. Somewhere their instruments could not identify. On the Defiance, Dr. Chun's voice echoed through the ship's corridors. "Genesis drive at 70% power. All crew members, prepare for dimensional shift." Elena gripped the arms of her captains. "Chair, the dimensional shift was the most dangerous part. When the Genesis drive reached full power, it would change the basic rules of space and time around the ship. Reality itself would bend and twist in ways that human minds were not meant to understand. She could already feel it starting. The air seemed thicker somehow. Colors looked different. The stars outside the windows seemed to be moving in slow motion. The Genesis drive was reaching into the quantum foam that existed beneath normal space and time. It was touching the raw forces that had created the universe itself. Dr. Chun had explained it to her once, using words that Elena barely understood. The Genesis drive does not destroy things in the normal way, the scientist had said. Instead, it convinces the universe that certain things never existed in the first place. It erases them from history itself. Elena had asked what would happen to the people on the ships that got erased. Dr. Chun had looked very sad when she answered, "They do not die, exactly. They simply never were. The universe forgets they ever existed. Only we will remember them." That was the terrible power they were about to use. Not just to kill their enemies, but to erase them from existence so completely that it would be as if they had never been born. The energy readings from the Defiance continued to climb. On the alien ship, panic was starting to spread among the crew. Their instruments were showing impossible things. The human ship was somehow becoming larger without changing size. Its mass was increasing while its volume stayed the same. "All weapons target that ship," Kethver shouted. "Destroy it before it can do whatever it is planning." But when his weapons officer tried to fire, nothing happened. The weapons would not respond. Every gun, every missile, every energy beam weapon on every ship in the fleet had suddenly stopped working. "Sir, all weapon systems are offline," the weapons officer reported with terror in his voice. "Not damaged? Not broken, just offline as if they never existed?" Elena watched through her main screen as the alien fleet tried desperately to attack her ship. She could see flashes of light as they attempted to fire their weapons, but nothing came out. The Genesis drive was already starting to work its terrible magic. 80% power, Dr. Chun announced. Reality barriers are weakening. Quantum foam is responding to guidance systems. Elena closed her eyes and thought about her daughter back on Earth. Little Maria, only 8 years old, probably watching the news with her grandmother, probably wondering if Mommy would come home from this mission. Elena opened her eyes and looked at the alien fleet. 50,000 lives hung in the balance. But behind her was Earth with 3 billion human lives, depending on her to make the right choice. 90% power, came Dr. Chun's voice. All systems ready, awaiting final authorization. Elena took a deep breath. She thought about all the worlds the aliens had destroyed, all the species they had enslaved, all the children who had died because the Zephyrians thought might made right. "Dr. Chun," Elena said quietly, "you are authorized to activate the Genesis drive at full power." In the depths of space, reality held its breath. The Genesis drive reached 100% power, and everything changed. Dr. Sarah Chun felt the universe respond to her commands. The device she had spent 15 years building was now fully active. It was reaching into the deepest parts of reality and changing the basic rules that held everything together. The Genesis drive did not work like any weapon that had ever been built before. Normal weapons destroyed things by breaking them apart or burning them up. The Genesis drive was different. It made the universe forget that things had ever existed in the first place. Elena Vasquez watched from her captain's chair as the impossible began to happen. Through the main screen, she could see the alien fleet starting to look strange. The ships were still there, but they seemed less real somehow, like pictures that were slowly fading away. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Commander Hayes, "what are we doing to them?" Elena knew exactly what they were doing. They were erasing the alien fleet from existence itself. Not just killing the aliens, but making it so they had never been born, never lived, never built their ships or come to threaten Earth. On the alien flagship, Admiral Kethver felt reality crumbling around him. His mighty ship, which had conquered 12 worlds, was becoming see-through. He could look at his hands and see through them to the floor below. "What is happening?" He shouted, but his voice sounded far away, like an echo from a dream. His crew members were fading too. Officers he had served with for decades were becoming like ghosts. Some of them were already so faded that he could barely see them at all. The Zephyrian admiral tried to understand what was happening. His sensors were going crazy, showing readings that made no sense. The human ship was somehow reaching across space and unmaking his entire fleet. "Sir," his communications officer tried to say, but the words came out weak and distant. "The human ship is not just attacking us, it is erasing us from the timeline itself." Kethver felt terror fill his heart. He had faced death in battle many times. He was not afraid to die fighting. But this was not death. This was something much worse. This was being removed from existence so completely that it would be as if he had never been born. He tried to give orders to his crew, but fewer and fewer of them could hear him. They were disappearing one by one, becoming transparent, then invisible, then gone completely. Not dead, just never having existed at all. On the Defiance, Elena watched as the alien fleet continued to fade away. Ship after ship became transparent, then vanished completely. The massive alien dreadnought, which had seemed so powerful and threatening just minutes before, was now half invisible. Dr. Chen's voice came over the intercom, and Elena could hear the fear in it. "Captain, the Genesis drive is working perfectly. We are successfully erasing the alien fleet from the timeline. But Captain... we could do more. We could target their homeworlds. We could erase entire alien civilizations so completely that the universe itself would forget they ever existed." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The power they had unleashed was more terrible than she had imagined. They could not just win this battle. They could wipe out entire species without leaving a trace. She looked around at her crew. They all looked frightened by what they were witnessing. Lieutenant Hayes was staring at his instruments with wide eyes. The readings showed that reality itself was bending around their ship. "How does it work?" Hayes asked quietly. Dr. Chun answered over the intercom. "The Genesis drive reaches into what scientists call the quantum foam. That is the basic structure that underlies all of space and time. Everything that exists is built on top of this foam. By manipulating it, we can change the fundamental rules of reality." Elena tried to understand what the scientist was saying. "You mean we are changing the laws of physics?" "More than that," Dr. Chun replied. "We are editing the story of the universe itself. We are going back to the moment when these alien ships were first built and making it so they were never constructed. We are erasing the aliens' parents so they were never born. We are removing entire star systems from history." Through the main screen, Elena could see that only a few alien ships were still visible. Most of the fleet had already been completely erased. The aliens who had laughed at humanity's small warship were learning that size and power meant nothing when your enemy could simply delete you from existence. Admiral Kethver tried one last time to contact his remaining ships, but most of them were already gone. His own flagship was fading fast. He could see through the walls of his bridge to the stars beyond. He thought about his family back on his home world. His mate and their 3 young offspring? Would they be erased too? Would the Genesis drive reach across the galaxy and make it so they had never been born? The alien admiral realized that his species had made a terrible mistake. They had thought humans were primitive and weak. They had laughed at the small human ship and its pathetic weapons. But humans had built something that was not really a weapon at all. They had built a god, and that god was very angry. "Please," Kethver tried to transmit to the human ship, but he did not know if his message was getting through. "We surrender. We will leave your world alone. Please stop this madness." But it was too late. The Genesis drive had already locked onto his ship. The process could not be stopped or reversed. He and his crew were being written out of the story of the universe, page by page, memory by memory. Elena heard the alien admiral's plea for mercy, transmitted through the static of failing communications equipment. For a moment she felt sorry for him, but then she remembered the intercepted messages where the aliens had talked about turning humans into slaves. She remembered the 12 worlds they had already conquered and enslaved. "Dr. Chun," Elena said quietly, "continue the erasure. Leave no trace of them." The last few alien ships flickered like candles in the wind and then went out completely. Where a massive fleet had threatened Earth just minutes before, There was now only empty space. The Genesis drive powered down slowly. The terrible energy that had been bending reality began to fade. The stars stopped looking strange. The air stopped feeling thick and weird. "Erasure complete," Dr. Chun announced. "The Zephyrian invasion fleet has been completely removed from the timeline. According to the universe's records, they never existed." Elena stared out at the empty space where the alien fleet had been. There was no wreckage, no debris, no sign that a battle had ever taken place. The aliens had been deleted, so thoroughly that only the humans on the Defiance remembered they had ever existed, but Elena felt no victory. She felt no joy. She understood that humanity had crossed a line that could never be crossed back. They had become something that could unmake other thinking beings, not just from the present, but from the past and future as well. "Captain, Doctor." Chun's voice came again, quieter now. "The Genesis drive is stable. We could use it again if we needed to. We could target planets, star systems, entire civilizations. We could erase species so completely that the universe itself would forget they ever lived." Elena closed her eyes and tried not to think about that terrible power. Humanity had built a weapon that could edit reality itself. They had become gods of creation and destruction. "Shut it down," Elena ordered. "Completely shut it down." "Yes, Captain," Dr. Chun replied. "But Elena, the knowledge of how to build it still exists. The plans, the theories, the science behind it, that cannot be erased." Elena opened her eyes and looked at her crew. They all looked shaken by what they had witnessed. They had seen their species become something that could delete other sapient beings from existence itself. The alien fleet had laughed at Earth's small warship, never knowing that the most dangerous predators sometimes come in small packages. Humanity had won not through superior firepower or better technology, but through their willingness to become something that the universe itself would prefer to forget. "Set course for Earth," Elena ordered. "We are going home." As the Defiance turned toward their homeworld, Elena wondered what would happen next. Other alien species would eventually learn that the Zephyrian fleet had vanished without a trace. They would wonder what had happened. They would look at the small blue world called Earth and think twice before threatening it. But humanity would also have to live with the knowledge of what they had become. They would know that buried deep in their nature was the capacity for cosmic horror beyond imagination. The stars watched in silence as the small human ship headed home, carrying the most terrible secret in the universe. The silence in space was complete now. Where the massive Zephyrian fleet had floated just minutes before, there was nothing. Not even tiny pieces of metal floating in the dark. The alien ships had not been destroyed in the normal way. They had been erased from existence so thoroughly that the universe itself had no memory of them. Elena Vasquez sat in her captain's chair, staring at the empty space on her main screen. Her hands were shaking slightly. She had just watched 50,000 living beings disappear from reality. Not killed, not destroyed, but deleted from the story of existence itself. Dr. Sarah Chun's voice came over the ship's communication system. She sounded tired and frightened. "Captain, the Genesis drive has powered down completely. The quantum field manipulations are stable. We have successfully removed the entire Zephyrian invasion force from the timeline." Elena felt sick to her stomach. "Dr. Chun, what exactly did we do to them?" There was a long pause before the scientist answered. "We convinced the universe that they never existed, Captain. We reached back through time and erased their births, their childhoods, their entire lives. From the universe's perspective, those aliens were never born. Their ships were never built. Their civilization never developed the technology to threaten Earth." Lieutenant Commander Hayes turned from his station to look at Elena. His face was pale and his eyes were wide with shock. "Captain, are you saying we just committed genocide against an entire species?" "Not genocide," Dr. Chun's voice corrected. Something much worse. Genocide kills people. What we did was remove them from ever having existed. Their families back on their homeworld do not remember them because they were never born. Their friends, their lovers, their children, none of them exist anymore. Elena closed her eyes and tried to process what they had done. The Genesis drive had not just won them a battle. It had rewritten history itself. The Zephyrian Empire would wake up tomorrow missing millions of citizens with no memory of how or why they were gone. Dr. Chun, Elena asked quietly, what happens to their homeworld now? Will their civilization collapse without all those people? Unknown, came the reply. We have created a paradox. The Zephyrians who built this invasion fleet no longer exist, so they could never have threatened Earth, but we still remember the threat, because we were protected by the Genesis drive's field during the erasure process. Elena opened her eyes and looked around her bridge. Her crew was staring at her with expressions of fear and confusion. They had all volunteered for what they thought was a suicide mission to save Earth. Instead, they had become something much darker. Sir, said Hayes, what do we do now? Do we report back to Earth Command? Do we tell them what really happened here? Before Elena could answer, the communications system crackled to life. A new voice filled the bridge, Admiral Chun Morrison, Elena's old commanding officer back on Earth. Elena, this is Admiral Morrison on board the UHS Guardian. We have been monitoring the quantum disturbance from your position. We know what happened. We know what you had to do. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Earth had been watching the entire time. They knew about the Genesis drive and what it could do. Admiral Morrison, Elena said into her microphone, we stopped the invasion. The alien fleet has been neutralized. Neutralized is not the word I would use, Morrison replied, and Elena could hear the sadness in his voice. Elena, you erased 50,000 sapient beings from existence. You rewrote the timeline itself. Do you understand what that means? Elena was quiet for a moment. Finally, she said, it means we saved Earth, sir. We saved 3 billion human lives. Yes, Morrison agreed. And it also means we have become something that makes those aliens look like saints. A weapon that can delete intelligent life from existence itself. No one should have that power. No species should be able to do what you just did. Dr. Chun's voice joined the conversation. Admiral Morrison, the Genesis drive is more than just a weapon. It is a fundamental violation of how the universe is supposed to work. Every time we use it, we risk unraveling the basic structure of reality. Space and time themselves might start to fall apart. Elena felt her heart sink as she understood what the Admiral was really saying. Sir, are you telling us that we cannot come home? You can come home, Morrison said gently. But Elena, things will never be the same. What you have done here today will change humanity forever. We now know that we have the ability to become cosmic destroyers. We can erase entire civilizations from existence if we choose to. Elena looked at her crew again. They were all listening to the conversation with growing horror. They had thought they were heroes saving their world. Now they were learning that they had become something much more frightening. What happens to us? Asked Hayes. Admiral Morrison was quiet for a long moment before answering. You will all be classified beyond top secret. The Genesis drive technology will be buried so deep that most people will never know it existed. The official story will be that you destroyed the alien fleet with an experimental fusion torpedo. Elena felt a bitter laugh escape her lips. So we go from heroes to ghosts, is that it? No, Morrison said firmly. You are heroes. You will always be heroes. You saved our entire species. But you also proved that humanity has the capacity for something that terrifies even us. That burden is too heavy for the universe to bear twice. Dr. Chun spoke up again. Admiral, what about the science, the research? The knowledge of how to build the Genesis drive? All of it will be destroyed. Morrison replied without hesitation. The plans, the equations, the research notes, everything. The Genesis drive will be taken apart piece by piece. The technology will die with this mission. Elena stared out at the empty space where the alien fleet had been. She thought about the Zephyrian Admiral, Kethfer. He had seemed so confident, so sure of his superiority. He had laughed at humanity's small warship right up until the moment he started fading from existence. Sir, Elena said, Other alien species will eventually notice that the Zephyrians are missing. They will investigate. They will wonder what happened to an entire invasion fleet. Yes, Morrison agreed. And when they do, they will look at Earth very carefully. They will see a small blue world with primitive technology and peaceful intentions. They will see no evidence of any superweapon. But somewhere in the back of their minds, they will remember that 500 warships simply vanished without a trace. Elena began to understand the larger plan. Earth would appear harmless and innocent to any alien observers. But the mystery of the missing Zephyrian fleet would make other species think twice before threatening humanity. We become the species that other aliens avoid without knowing exactly why, Elena said. Exactly, Morrison confirmed. Fear of the unknown is often more powerful than fear of the known. Other civilizations will give Earth a wide berth, and they will not be able to explain why. Dr. Chun's voice came over the intercom one more time. Admiral, there is something else we need to discuss. The Genesis drive ... it changed us too. Everyone who was aboard this ship during the activation has been exposed to quantum field fluctuations. We can see things that normal humans cannot. We can perceive reality in ways that might drive us insane. Elena had noticed it too. Colors look different now. She could see patterns in space that had not been there before. Sometimes she caught glimpses of other dimensions, other timelines where different choices had been made. What are you saying, Doctor? Morrison asked. I am saying that we are no longer entirely human, Dr. Chun replied quietly. The Genesis drive has changed us on a fundamental level. We have become something new, something that exists partially outside normal space and time. Elena felt the weight of that revelation settle on her shoulders. They had not just used a terrible weapon to save Earth. They had transformed themselves into something that was no longer fully part of the human race. Can you change us back? Elena asked. No, Dr. Chun said simply. The changes are permanent. We are what we are now. Elena closed her eyes and thought about her daughter back on Earth. Little Maria would grow up in a world that was safe from alien invasion, but her mother would never be fully human again. Admiral Morrison, Elena said, we are setting course for Earth now. We will submit to whatever containment or security measures you think are necessary. Thank you, Elena, Morrison replied. You and your crew have made the ultimate sacrifice. You have given up your humanity to save your species. That is the definition of heroism. As the Defiance turned toward Earth, Elena wondered what the future would hold. Humanity had revealed that beneath their seemingly peaceful exterior was the capacity for cosmic horror. They had become a species that could reach into the quantum foam of creation itself and delete their enemies from ever having existed. The alien fleet had laughed at Earth's warship, never suspecting that the most dangerous predators are often the ones that look harmless. But now humanity would have to live with the knowledge of what they could become when pushed to the edge of extinction. The stars watched in silence as the small human ship headed home, carrying passengers who were no longer entirely human in secrets that could reshape the universe itself. 3 days passed as the UHSV Defiance traveled through space toward Earth. 3 days for the crew to think about what they had done. 3 days to understand that they were no longer the same people who had left their home world to face the alien invasion. Captain Elena Vasquez spent most of that time staring out at the stars. They looked different now. She could see patterns in space that had not been there before the Genesis drive activated. Sometimes she glimpsed other dimensions, other timelines where different choices had been made. In some of those timelines, Earth had been conquered. In others, humanity had never existed at all. Sarah Chun had explained that these visions were a side effect of exposure to the quantum field manipulations. The Genesis drive had changed them on a fundamental level. They could now perceive reality in ways that normal humans could not. We exist partially outside normal space and time now, Dr. Chun had told her. We are still human, but we are also something more, something that the universe recognizes as different. Elena was not sure if being something more was a good thing or a terrible curse. On the 3rd day, they entered Earth's solar system. Elena expected to see the normal traffic of cargo ships and passenger vessels moving between the planets. Instead, they were met by a fleet of military ships that surrounded them immediately. Admiral Chun Morrison appeared on the main screen of the bridge. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. Elena had served under him for many years, before being given command of the Defiance. He had always been fair and kind to his officers, but now he looked at her with an expression she had never seen before, a mixture of gratitude, fear, and deep sadness. "Elena," he said quietly, "welcome home. I need you to follow my ships to a secure facility. No one else can know what really happened out there." Elena nodded. She had expected this. "Admiral, what about our families? Can we see them before we disappear into your secret facility?" Morrison was quiet for a long moment. "Elena, your families think you died in the battle against the aliens. We held memorial services for all of you 3 days ago." "Your daughter." Maria gave a very brave speech about how proud she was of her mother. Elena felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. "Sir, are you saying we can never see our families again?" "I am saying that Elena Vasquez, hero of Earth, died fighting the alien invasion," Morrison replied gently. "The woman sitting in that captain's chair is someone else now. Someone who has been changed by forces that normal humans cannot understand." Elena looked around at her crew. Lieutenant Commander Hayes was staring at his hands, probably thinking about his wife and 2 young children. Dr. Chun was wiping tears from her eyes behind her thick glasses. They had all lost their old lives when they agreed to use the Genesis drive. "What happens to us now?" Elena asked. "You will be taken to a facility where you can live comfortably but securely," Morrison explained. "You will have access to books, movies, games, anything you need to stay sane. But you cannot leave. You cannot contact the outside world. The secret of what you did must die with you." Elena felt anger building in her chest. "So we save the world and get rewarded with a life in prison?" "You saved the world by becoming something that could destroy the universe itself," Morrison replied firmly. "Elena, do you understand what the Genesis drive really is? It is not just a weapon. It is the power to edit reality itself. In the wrong hands, it could unmake existence itself." Dr. Chun spoke up from her station. "Admiral, the theoretical mathematics suggests that overuse of Genesis technology could cause a cascade failure in the quantum foam underlying spacetime. Reality itself could collapse," Morrison nodded grimly. "Which is why every piece of Genesis drive technology will be destroyed. Every research note will be burned. Every equation will be erased. The knowledge of how to build such a device must never exist again." Elena understood the logic, but it still felt wrong. "Sir, what if Earth is threatened again? What if another alien species decides to invade us?" "Then we will fight them with conventional weapons," Morrison said. "We will win or lose based on our courage, our skill, and our technology. But we will never again use the power to delete sapient beings from existence." The fleet of Earth ships guided the Defiance to a space station that Elena had never seen before. It was small and heavily fortified, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. As they docked, Elena could see armed guards waiting for them. "Admiral," Elena said, "one more question. What story will you tell the public about how we defeated the alien invasion?" Morrison smiled sadly. "We will tell them the truth, mostly. Captain Elena Vasquez and her brave crew faced impossible odds to defend Earth. They used an experimental fusion weapon to destroy the alien fleet. All hands were lost in the battle, but their sacrifice saved billions of lives." Elena realized that she was already dead in the eyes of the world. Elena Vasquez, starship captain and war hero, had died, fighting aliens in the depths of space. The woman who would walk off this ship was someone else entirely. Over the following weeks, Elena and her crew were moved to a secret facility on Earth. It was comfortable, as Morrison had promised. They had nice rooms, good food, access to entertainment, and books, but they also had armed guards and locked doors. They were prisoners. Even if they were treated well. Elena spent her days writing reports about the mission that would never be read by anyone outside the facility. She wrote down every detail she could remember about the Genesis drive and how it worked. Then she watched as her reports were fed into an incinerator and turned to ash. Dr. Chun worked with a team of scientists to dismantle the Genesis drive piece by piece. Every component was studied, documented, and then destroyed. The great weapon that had saved Earth was taken apart so thoroughly that it could never be rebuilt. Are you sad to see it destroyed? Elena asked her one day. Dr. Chun was quiet for a moment, watching as the last pieces of her life's work were melted down into scrap metal. No, she said finally. Some knowledge is too dangerous to exist. Some powers are too terrible for any species to possess. Elena learned that the outside world was doing well. The story of her heroic sacrifice had inspired millions of people. Earth's military was stronger than ever, preparing for future alien threats with conventional weapons and determination. More importantly, alien civilizations throughout the galaxy were giving Earth a very wide berth. Word had spread that the Zephyrian invasion fleet had simply vanished without a trace. No one knew exactly what had happened, but the mystery was enough to keep other hostile species away. They think we have some kind of superweapon, one of the guards told Elena during a casual conversation. They do not know what it is or how it works, but they are too scared to find out. Elena smiled at that. Earth was safer than it had ever been, protected by the fear of a weapon that no longer existed. As the months passed, Elena slowly came to terms with her new life. She would never see her daughter Maria grow up. She would never have grandchildren, or grow old surrounded by family. But Maria was growing up in a world that was safe from alien invasion, and that was worth any sacrifice. Sometimes, late at night, Elena would look out her window at the stars and wonder about the aliens they had erased. Did the Zephyrian Empire still exist without the millions of people who had never been born? Did their families miss them? Or had they been edited out of existence too? Dr. Chen had told her that the effects of the Genesis drive were limited to the immediate targets. The Zephyrian homeworld still existed, but it was now missing the people who would have become the invasion fleet. The Empire would be weaker, but it would survive. We did not commit genocide, Dr. Chun had assured her. We just edited their story, removed a few chapters that we did not like. Elena was not sure if that made what they had done better or worse. Years passed. Elena grew older in her comfortable prison, watched over by guards who treated her with respect and kindness. She knew that she would never leave this place. She would die here, taking the secret of the Genesis drive to her grave, but she also knew that Earth was safe. Other alien species might threaten humanity in the future, but they would do so carefully, remembering the mysterious fate of the Zephyrian fleet. They would look at the small blue world and wonder what terrible secrets it might be hiding. Elena Vasquez had died saving her world, but the woman who carried her memories lived on, keeping watch over humanity's darkest secret. She had become the guardian of knowledge too dangerous for the universe to remember. The alien fleet had laughed at Earth's warship, never knowing that sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones that look harmless. Humanity had won by becoming something that the universe itself preferred to forget, and in the quiet corridors of a secret facility, the last survivors of that victory lived out their days, knowing that they had saved their species by sacrificing their humanity. The stars continued to shine, and somewhere among them, alien civilizations looked toward Earth and felt a chill they could not explain.